All right, welcome back to Why This Beer, the show where we dig into the people, stories, and experiences shaping the craft beer we love. I'm Aslan Graves from Main Street Brewing. I'm joined as always, Darren Benema, Neighborhood Brewing in Yellow Dog Penticton.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, and today we're heading over to Victoria to sit down with someone who's been involved in a lot of the beers that help define Vancouver Island beer. Andy Innes is the R&D brewer at Driftwood, and over the years he's worked at both Phillips and Driftwood, with his hands in beers like Blue Buck and Fat Tug, beers that a lot of us grew up drinking and still see on taps today. What's interesting about Andy's story is that it's less about chasing what's new and more about understanding why some beers last. How a beer like Fat Tug can stay relevant for 15 years, what actually changes over time, what doesn't, and how much quiet work goes into keeping a core beer feeling the same pint after pint. We talk about moving between different breweries, systems, how recipes evolve without losing their identity, and what the process looks like when you're trialing tweaks, seasonals, or even the next long-term beer. So welcome, Andy. I'm excited to get into this on Why This Beer.
Yeah, me too. Thanks, guys.
And thanks again for taking the time to do this with you with the newborn. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Congrats to you too.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Got both
Thank
have
you.
3 months old. It's pretty
so
sweet.
let's just start with a bit of
Yeah,
beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, a week apart. Yeah.
You guys have beers older than your kids,
in the
probably.
fridge right
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Can you share your journey in craft and how you got to where you are?
Yes. Growing up in Vancouver, I remember sort of like before I ever thought I would get into the industry, and when I was just starting to homebrew, I remember drinking a lot of house hound swing top bottles and saving the bottles, like I was saying, and hanging out at the Alibi Room. Yeah.
What was the go-to house
I
sound
don't
beer?
know.
What was the one that you could put back the most of to get enough
That's
swing
such
tops?
a good question. I remember trying to recreate one of their IPAs. I think it was a Centennial IPA. I don't remember the name. So that one probably a lot of. And then I just remember being so stoked at that age and time in my life for seasonals like pumpkin beers and winter ales and stuff. That was like the best. So cool.
Yeah.
Homebrewing as much as we could, trying to get our hands on ingredients that we'd never used and didn't understand, and hanging out at all the cool places like Alibi at the time I loved.
Yeah.
And seeing brewers. I remember seeing brewers all the time at the Parallel 49 tap room way back, and not thinking that I would enter that sphere, but I was working in kitchens a lot of odd jobs, crappy jobs, just trying to save up enough money to travel, and then just quit the job, come back, do it again. And traveling kind of pushed me over the edge from like a craft beer enthusiast into someone who really was thinking about craft beer a lot, all the time, drinking beer. As I moved through Belgium and Germany, like, you know, I think we've all had those moments traveling through Europe where we kind of start to think about beer at a different level, and get curious and start doing research and fall down the rabbit hole. Czechia as well. Came home and started homebrewing a lot more, and working in kitchens. I really knew that I didn't want to keep cooking for a living at all. Like, it felt like the kitchen work was pretty toxic if you've ever worked in a kitchen. I didn't want to go to culinary school because like I had friends who did that. It didn't seem like a great time, very rigid, and those hats that they wear really suck, and I couldn't imagine myself in those. A lot of things. Didn't want to keep doing the stuff I did my undergrad in at UBC. So I was kind of at this moment where if I was going to go back to school, I wanted it to be a skilled trade, but I liked how creative cooking was, but it was also science, and it was so multidisciplinary. I felt like doing something in that ilk would be really fun, and still at that time not really considering brewing as a job because I didn't know how to get into it, and I hadn't worked at a brewery. But my girlfriend at the time, my now wife's best friend, did the winemaking program at Niagara College, and we went to visit her there, and that program is really cool. It's got a brewing program, a wine program, and a culinary program all rolled into one, like this trifecta down near Niagara on the lake. And I was just like, damn, this might be it. This might be what I want to do. And I applied, and they wouldn't take me. I was first on the wait list. They have a mandate they won't take out-of-province students. So if anyone from Ontario applies ahead of you, you're not getting in. And I thought about just showing up and just making them take me. But then weirdly, I heard that Olds College, which I had never heard of, this small agricultural college in the middle of Alberta, that's kind of like halfway between Calgary and Red Deer in the middle of nowhere, bought the rights to the program, had a wine equipment designer that made the system for Niagara College build one identical for Olds, and they put in a brewery in a hotel on the highway in Olds, and they were taking applications, and I applied late, and I was like 15th on the wait list, and I thought I didn't have a hope of getting in, and then I got the call, and I think I had like 2 weeks till the start of school, so I just packed up my Jeep.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Jeez.
I drove out and got the crummiest, most rundown basement suite, and then just did 2 years there. It was full time in person back then. It was the first intake, and it was incredible. Like I grew up in Vancouver and had never left, or I'd never lived in another province, so Alberta was a culture shock.
Yeah.
And if you
Right.
know,
Yeah, especially
Holy,
Red
yeah.
Deer.
Yeah, Vancouver to
It was
Olds.
wild.
Yeah.
yeah, and I think I didn't transition super well. I kind of just kept being very Vancouver in Alberta, for better or worse, which was probably got a laugh out of all my
Yeah,
classmates because they were from all over Canada. The thing with Ontario not taking anyone outside of Ontario, we just got everyone else. And I met some amazing brewers, and there's still some amazing brewers across the industry from that. Like you interviewed Ian Cameron, who's working at Bellbreaker.
Yeah, I was going to say Ian was in that class, right?
Yeah, he's still a good friend, and lots of people still doing it. Some have come and gone from the industry, but it was so much fun. I think I was probably one of the least experienced guys when I started there, and it kind of lit a fire under my butt to try and get competent really quickly and catch up and just dedicate myself to it. But it was like very immersive. It's like a convent for beer. There's nothing else going on there. It's like, it's all farms.
Right.
The school has programs for things like butchery and like equine sciences, animal husbandry, just really funny, and hospitality because there's a hotel right there. But the program was good, and they let us access the equipment a lot. I don't use a lot of ingredients. I don't think they really knew what was going on. It was new to them too. So we just really took advantage of it, and we brewed so much, and we just shared everything we were learning and homebrewed together, and just caught up fast. Like,
What was the batch size?
on the pilot system, I think it was at 50 liters. And then the batch sizes on the main system, I think, were 8 hec, if I remember correctly. The system was wild.
That's a
Yeah,
decent
it was
size,
decent, but like a one-of-one system by a non-brewing manufacturer. Really interesting.
Lots of quirks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun, and I did really enjoy living out there and just doing nothing but just eat, sleep, breathe, think about beer all the time. It felt like a master's degree in a way because it was a 2-year program at the time, and we had a large, term project at the end of it all, like almost like a thesis, where you'd brew a beer and talk about it. When we made a lot of beers and did a lot of field trips, got to learn a lot, meet a lot of people, on-site field studies. Like we went down to Yakima, which was my first trip there of many, and that's such a important formative thing for any brewer to do. And malt is such a big thing out there. Being able to understand that ingredient more.
Cool. Yeah, but I guess being that close to it, you get some hands-on experience
That
on
was
the malting
really great.
side.
I mean, when you're starting out, you're obviously super excited about hops and malt. The more you get into the industry, you need to pay attention to it, and you learn to love it. But at the time, I was like, let's get back down to Yakima. Let's do more of that. Let's drink more of that beer. But getting to visit RAR and Canada Malting and a lot of the small boutique malteries that were popping up. It was right around the time where they changed the legislation in Alberta so that you could even have nano and microbreweries, right? That wasn't even a thing right before I got there.
Yeah.
As you know. So the pace at which breweries were opening and students were getting poached out of the program and courted to go be the head brewer at this next new brewery was like, just had whiplash watching it happen. And I just knew I didn't want to stay in Alberta. So all my friends are networking and getting jobs, and I just wasn't. I'd come back to Vancouver to see my family once in a while, and I'd interview at breweries around town, and just there wasn't really a fit. Like either I was really into it and they weren't into me, or vice versa. I didn't know what I was going to do. So right around the end of the program, I graduated, moved back to Vancouver, and then I suddenly got a call from Matt Phillips because they needed a brewer really fast, and he had contact with one of my professors at Olds. He did a little talk about their mash press, some sort of like a little Zoom lecture, which I think I skipped that day. to brew. I think I skipped a lot of classes just to go brew, which I think actually paid off. Yeah, he told Jordan, my professor there, that he really needed someone, and Jordan knew that I was on the West Coast and wanted to work on the West Coast, even though I was in Vancouver. Victoria's not that far, and I interviewed. 4 days later, I went out to Victoria and interviewed, and then 5 days after that, I started. I just, again, everything in the Jeep. I was sleeping on my friend's couch, and we've been here ever since. That was 2015. Really glad it all worked out that way, but it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. That's great. That's cool.
Yeah, that would have been an early time in like not early. Phillips has been around for a while, but I mean, there would have been a huge time of growth, I would assume, at that, like in 2015. Like you talked about mash press. Like I think you would know better, but I think that's what their brewing system is. Like they have a mash press now too, I think.
Yeah, same mash press.
And I thought they were maybe putting that in there.
No, you're right. They had it. They had retrofitted their older 40 hectoliter system to use the mash filter press when I got there. So I learned on that, and they run a lean brew house. Like there were 3 brewers at the time, and I was the night shift, and then there were 2 guys on the morning shift who would rotate between maintenance and brewing, and that was it. And we made so much beer on that system. It was wild. We did graveyard shifts. We were working around the clock, really long days. So they did retrofit that mash filter press to a new system. They basically just like extended it, right? Add more plates, upgraded it from the junior to the mega, whatever the Mira sells. And their system that we transitioned to try and keep up with that insane demand, like you were pointing out, Darren, and the growth was unbelievable. But then the new system that they brought in was also really cool to work on and try and work with the software programmers to develop fail safes and systematic tweaks. And that was maybe one of my favorite parts of the job, was kind of optimizing it, because it was really a one-on-one. It's got 2 brew kettles. Everything is really oversized, has an external calandria, massive mash press, and it even has a hot size centrifuge. Like a lot of really cool things on that. Yeah, it's a really unique system.
And then when you're upsizing it and scaling, how did some of those core products go as far as like scaling them? Is it linear or?
I find it is. I once asked one of my mentors about that when I was like, well, when I'm scaling up my homebrew recipes to a larger system, what should I even do? How do I even start? And he kind of like very cynically was like, you just add a 0. And I was like pissed off at that answer. I thought it was a pretty sincere question. It was a good question. And in so many ways, he's right. Insofar as I find that the things that come up that throw you off and change the beer aren't the things you'd expect. With the recipe, really, you at our brewery now, when I'm on the pilot system, the efficiency is so much better than our production system that's the biggest thing I have to account for. But flavor-wise and ingredients usage, you have to take into account that there's a mash press, which is you're hammer milling your grain, right, to a fine flour. It's the biggest difference. The system's big and everything's oversized, and it moves fast, and you can use a lot of adjunct through it if you want to. And one thing I really found about that mash filter press is that it will tell you when the quality of your malt isn't up to snuff. The protein or the friability or anything are different. You know right away. And Phillips was malting their own barley, right? Which was, I don't know, at the time it was probably about a quarter of the base malt they were using overall was their own. And I don't know what it is now, but those are the considerations mostly. Malt quality. Nowadays.
What would you say like that? My assumption would be like, because the mash filter press is like a lot more efficient, that like big swings or like any swing in like the quality of malt is going to have like a bigger impact on like
extract
your efficiency.
And
would that be
throughput
the
time,
thing?
like the pressure that you need to force all that slurry in varies wildly.
Okay.
And you can, you're observing and manipulating all those pressures. And so that.
But you're also getting rid of a lot of that human error, I guess. So you're kind of like I know exactly what my mash efficiency should be.
Yeah, that's true.
And yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
At Driftwood, obviously I wasn't there when they moved to the new location. I'm really lucky to miss that. So when they scaled all their stuff over, if they troubleshot anything right out of the gate, it wasn't a big deal from what I understand. I don't think they missed a beat, but we do have other weird things that pop up. Have either of you been to the new facility in Esquimalt since they moved from Rock Bay?
I've not.
No, only the last.
Obviously, you have to come visit soon, and I'll show you around. But
sounds good.
It's a massive warehouse, and one of the things we deal with is how the temperature swings during fermentation. They're so much different than the Rock Bay location that we've actually had to change the mash rest temperature. Fat Tug is a huge beer, and it has a really high starting gravity and a high finishing gravity, and it's a challenging fermentation. It's Chico, and we really abuse it, and we try not to run it to too many generations for obviously reasons, and that's just one of the considerations when 2/3 of what you brew is Fat Tug. So we find in the winter that after log phase, it doesn't, the temperature drops so fast that it really doesn't come down in gravity as much as we want before we dry hop it. So we have some tanks on a warm glycol system, which is really cool to have. But we mostly save those for lagers in the winter so that we can kind of clean them up, and for sour beers. So in the tank row of Fat Tug, we kind of settle on the fact that we really just needed to mash a tiny bit lower, like half a degree Celsius, and that seemed to get us a few points down for the start of dry hop, which is one thing that I think is an adaptation we've had to make. And it wasn't an equipment thing; it was just a temperature thing. That warehouse is freezing in the winter.
Yeah.
Right. Just like you don't want to be heating an entire huge warehouse for it would cost lots. Warm enough so that people can work. And
I don't know,
freeze,
not even that. I can see my breath some days. It's crazy.
Yeah.
There you go.
Before we get too far into it, we should talk about we've got Fat Tug here. 15 years of Fat Tug, which is great. I don't know about you guys if you have any aha moments. I was asking my partner just before this, but she was she came over from Rotterdam around 2010, and she was like, Fat Tug was the first beer I had that wasn't Corona. Cool. and in North America, and she's and I just whoa, this beer's incredible. I'm what is this? It's I think a lot of people's gateway for this style of beer.
I remember drinking it before I really knew a lot about craft beer and finding it extremely bitter, but also just being drawn back to it. The cheap pints of it at the Canby are what I remember the most when I was 20. I couldn't believe they had it there.
Hey, quick shout out to our friends at Hops Connect Canada. They've been hooking up brewers with quality hops for over a decade.
Yeah, started on a farm in Pemberton, and they got warehouses across BC, Ontario, and Quebec. Super reliable, and they actually get what brewers need.
They've got all the classics: Citra, Mosaic, Amarillo, Eldorado, Cascade. The list goes on, with lot selection starting at just 100 kilos.
But what we've really been digging lately is their liquid hop lineup. Total brew day game changers.
Yeah, stuff like Flex for bittering without the wort loss, Incognito for whirlpool flavor without the mess, and Spectrum for dry hopping with no hop creep.
I'm also a big fan of Hop 8 anti-foam. Less foam, higher tank fills. That's a win.
And if you're chasing that haze, Hop Haze keeps it locked in for up to 12 months. No flavor impact, just stable haze.
They've even got a brewing calculator on their site to show you just how much time and margin you can save. Super handy when you're dialing things in.
So yeah, if you're brewing in Canada, check out Hops Connect.
Solid people, solid hops. Hops Connect Canada, your partner in craft.
Yeah, I had the same thing at it was Lamplighter or something. I remember we were there, and there's just the whole tap list was swill, and then there was on the very end it was Fat Tug, and I had 3.
Yeah, you don't just be gooned.
Terrible choice.
Exactly.
I think that's what's...
that was my exact situation at the Biltmore. It was it's cheaper if I just get 3 Fat Tugs than 5 PBRs.
If you do the math, it's more efficient. I think that was...
And then I just end up getting more Fat Tug, but that's the problem.
I know. I thought it was cool that it was so available.
Yeah, so as we're talking about Fat Tug, I guess the question I've got is with this beer and Blue Buck as well, what do you think goes into making these beers stand the test of time? Like, these are both still like big staple cores.
Yeah.
Breweries.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I'm not sure. You kind of have to respect, like we were just talking about, how emotionally charged people's experience with these beers is. And you kind of love working at breweries where people are so attached and give you such a big happy reaction when you tell them you work there, because they have all these great experiences and emotions and memories tied into things like Blue Buck and Fat Tug, which I think is emblematic of what makes craft beer so great in the first place, right? It's really just like a gathering place for making memories and celebrating. And you can talk about a beer to death and analyze it and pick it apart, or you can not. But either way, maybe you're just sharing with friends and making memories. Fat Tug and Blue Buck really represent that for people. They tie it to a time and place. Maybe they spent a vacation in Victoria that they loved and they had it for the first time, or like Aslan, your wife, coming over from the Netherlands and it was the first beer that she had in North America, you said, and finding it remarkable for that reason. Like, I think we all have those experiences and stories. So you just try and respect the beer and steward it along for what it is. And, we talked about this a little, or there was a question that you wrote and asked me, how did they change over the years and how do you treat them and how do you make changes if you need to make changes? And it definitely varies based on the ethos of the brewery that you're at. I found at Phillips, there was a willingness to make changes, but subtle ones, right? Not something that a consumer is going to freak out about. But it had to be done for the right reasons. You were either innovating, which is a big part of Phillips culture, taking chances, trying new things for the right reasons, usually to try and be more efficient or to try and push the limits a little bit. And at Driftwood, it's more about, respecting those things and keeping those recipes as intact as possible. And if we want to try new things, we're going to do that on a new beer.
Right.
Yeah. So, all our hop contracts are, when we go select hops, they're all selected thinking of Fat Tug. And if one of those hops isn't absolutely perfect for another brand, well, we can subcontract out something else, a different lot, or we can just make that change and live with it. But Fat Tug has 7 different hops in it, and when we go get those, it's all about Fat Tug.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. So what are the 7?
Yeah. So what goes into the Fat Tug? People want to know. We're asking the questions.
How much crystal?
About it. Like, not a lot of crystal. A tiny bit of medium crystal, and a lot of Pilsner malt. It is a Pilsner malt IPA, which is cool.
Oh, okay.
I feel like a little ahead of its time in that way.
Yeah.
For the era, you would have expected
up there with like the OG Pliny Elder.
Yeah, probably inspired by that.
Yeah, and you guys are Superior Pils, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, and it's like, I think the beer evolved as an exposition of Amarillo, so it's a lot of Amarillo.
Okay.
That was the hop that they were able to get their hands on, that they were happy enough with finally to say, okay, let's make a huge, just ballsy American IPA, as they hadn't at the time. And that was the hop that came along that they were able to get enough of to do it. So it's still a lot of Amarillo, for better or worse, because that hop's changed a lot through the years.
Hugely, yeah.
Yeah. And then, all your C hops and some Simcoe and Citra is basically, what we're talking about.
Yeah. Does it have a lot of Centennial in it? I always thought that it did, but I'm not sure if it actually does.
It does.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Which I think, even though it's probably not the second most prominent hop in there after Amarillo, I do think that the flavor leans Centennial more than any other hop. I don't know why. It's a big grapefruit bomb and pine, like, it's very classic, and like the words I would use to describe Fat Tug aren't as like complex and poetic as I would use to describe some other beers, but I think that's the beauty of Fat Tug.
Yeah.
It's like the quintessential like expectation of West Coast IPA, like for BJCP standards.
Yeah, for like American IPA for sure. I was surprised when I was saying before the podcast, I had a couple of these beers last night just to prep, because it's the kind of prep work I like to do, and I was surprised how actually relatively light in color it is. I guess in my own recollection, I was like, oh, it's pretty dark. Like, it's a like a lot of the American IPAs, like back in like 2016, 2017, like they were pretty dark, but this one's actually pretty, yeah, it's quite light. It's like, if there is crystal, it's pretty moderate.
It's really moderate.
Yeah.
If it's dark at all, I swear it's just because it's so dense and sweet. That's probably what you're seeing.
Yeah.
And has the mash bill like remained the same over the years? Has there been any tweaks? Yeah.
No. Yeah, they've been really good about keeping it true to where it started.
Sweet. Yeah, pretty simple. Just yeah, Pilsner, little crystal, malt. Any like Vienna, Munich for body, or no? Simple. And then
caramel pills. Yeah.
Nice. And then
you
said you're using Chico?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
That's right.
Yeah.
What do you guys aggressively high finishing gravity? What's that?
Oh, yeah. Really high finishing gravity. Just really high. You can use your imagination. As high as you'd imagine. And like I can't even really tell you because we work in standard gravity, which is crazy. We work in Fahrenheit on the hot side, Celsius on the cold side, and standard gravity because our recipe designer, Jay Meyer, one of the owners, who's kind of handed me his portfolio of recipe creation, I think he just brought everything he learned from American brewing magazines into the brewery. So we work in like all different kinds of metrics, which drove me crazy when I started there. But now I kind of have started to respect that that's just kind of a lore and culture of the brewery, and I don't try and change it.
You got your own Driftwood units there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Gotta learn them. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't come across as like very sweet, but I'm guessing that it is probably quite bitter, or at least calculated IBUs are probably quite high. And so the idea of it finishing sweet is just to kind of balance it. Is that right?
That's exactly right. Like I agree with you. It doesn't come across either too bitter or too sweet, but it's definitely a lot of both. There's so much hops in it. So much hops in the hot side and so much dry hop that I think the owners don't mind me talking about the recipe because they're not really worried about people going out and launching a core beer with this much. Yeah. It's good. But
so I don't know if this is a Driftwood unit, but do you have a grams per liter
of dry hop?
I haven't. I think I do think in like kilos per hectoliter, but I haven't. That's on all the recipes I design. I'll think in that terms, but I haven't gone back and done the math on Fat Tug. But I will. I will maybe do that. And next time we talk, I'll let you know.
Bushels per fathom.
Bushels per fathom.
Yeah.
Mayhaps.
Mayhaps.
Yeah. Fat Tug's not. It's not a balanced beer, but it has balance built into it. I think people who don't normally drink IPAs, even though this beer feels aggressive, I can often give it to them, family members who wouldn't normally, and I am sure that the reason that they find it accessible at all is the sweetness.
Yeah. So like, how sweet though? And do you have I guess my other question was like, if I was designing this beer and you were saying it's finishing sweet, I'd be like super concerned about hop creep, especially if adding lots of hops late. Do you find that like having a beer with lots of like a target high finishing gravity, do you have problems with it trickling down due to hop creep, or do you do anything to mitigate that?
Yeah, like everything. Almost all of our quality concerns surrounding Fat Tug are to try and not have diacetyl after the dry hop. So yeah, we do a lot of work surrounding that, and like that's part of what I was talking about, our finishing gravity right before we do the dry hop, worrying about getting that low enough so that you've got enough jazz left in the tank to complete your fermentation and not wind up with a D-bomb.
Mm-hmm.
That's the concern there. Yeah. So, I mean, we'll use ALDC at certain key points of the process, and we are just really careful about when we crash the beer.
Right.
And the time of year, the temperature, all that. Yeah.
Do you find that you have sometimes where it is creeping down, like your gravity is going down, or you're just more concerned that like that last little bit of after dry hop is going to be what creates that diacetyl?
We sort of build room for that hop creep into the recipe.
Gotcha.
And expect it and usher it in so that we know that we can clear up. Like we're never going to get all the VDKs out of this beer. It just isn't built that way with the high finishing gravity, but we know that we can get it down below a typical threshold.
A threshold, right?
Yeah.
Do you have tools in house that you can measure it with, or are you just sniffers?
We're big sniffers.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I feel like it would be so many VDK tests because we brew so much Fat Tug that we're really doing we do a lot of heat force triangles, a lot of random sniff attacks from our lab. They're really on it. They're always putting random beers in your face with no context. And they know they're D-hounds. They know the people who are really good at diacetyl, and they're on them all the time. So we're often asked to look for that. That's our number one thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It is.
It's good having a lab that has enough of sensory history with each person to be like, okay, this is the guy. He knows. He always picks it out.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
it's great.
that person's bluffing.
Yeah. That person's worked here for a week, and they said they got diacetyl in Naughty Hildegard, so we're going to rule them out of the next one because I don't think they know what that is. We have a really great lab. They're really tenacious. They're smart. Franzi was the head brewer at Small Gods before, and that's something that we have going for us is our entire team. We're just very experienced. It's a nice place to work. It's a good place to work. They treat people well, so good people kind of wind up there, and I think our whole brewing team either has been or could easily be head brewer at another brewery. We just have a lot of experience. We're very lucky.
Nice.
And a lot of gender parity. It's more women than men in our department right now. It's great.
Sweet. That's a rarity for sure in the industry.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So we've got the juicy IPA that you brought in. This brings us to the other question. We should talk about this beer, but also just in general, after we chat about this beer, what are some of the other projects you've been excited about lately?
You ever feel like you've got everything dialed in except fermentation?
Oh yeah. If your yeast isn't consistent, the whole batch can go sideways.
That's why we've been checking out Yeast Canada Innovations. They're Canadian-owned, brewer-focused, and they get what you need. Reliable strains, solid flavor, and real support when things get weird.
And shipping is smooth. They've partnered with Hops Connect, so your yeast comes from the same warehouse, BC, Ontario, or Quebec, right with your hops.
Even better, if you ship together, your yeast ships for free.
And they're not charging premium prices either. The pricing is super approachable, which means more budget for the fun stuff, like more beer.
Here's the kicker. If you're listening to this podcast, you can get 5% off your first order at yeastcanada.com. Just hit up their team for the code.
Yeast Canada Innovations. Let's elevate your craft.
Yeah, our taproom is a fun playground. We do 8 to 10, maybe 12 hect batches pretty constantly. I try to have 2 to 5 novel beers on tap that you can only kind of get at the brewery. And we tend to explore some historical styles once in a while. Not this time of year, because I find that if the kegs are sitting around, we don't have as much people coming through. Like the patio
they
is
get
the
too
big
historical.
Draw.
Yeah,
they get way too
become historical.
Exactly. Yeah. So in the summer, we can kind of turn through, 15 kegs of that. But this time of year, maybe we just lay low and brew more IPAs, which is why people come in. So just a lot of iterations and iterating on styles that we don't have in our lineup, so that we can kind of fill gaps for guests, maybe people who love Driftwood but they have had our beer a lot, or people who are unfamiliar with Driftwood but they really just want a hazy IPA, and we don't offer one right now in the core lineup. So we almost always have a NEPA on tap, and I'm just running through versions of that, trying to get a recipe that I love, so that hopefully one day when Gary comes down and says, hey, we need a hazy IPA in a can again, I'll just have it in my pocket ready to go. I've been brewing a lot of that. Light IPAs, obviously anything hoppy moves really well with us, because I think people come in with that expectation. But we love making lagers, and I've been really sharpening my knife on a pale Czech lager, which is why I initially reached out to you guys, right?
Yeah.
So there's one of those on tap right now, and we love our Lucre Faucet.
Sweet.
Fun. Nice.
Not enough of those in Victoria, but I know it's becoming way more mainstream in Vancouver and around the province.
Yeah. It's nice to have one where you work too.
It's the best.
One to play around with, and
I don't have 8 or whatever like Brent has at Beach House, but one day.
No. Yeah, he's got a whole thing there. It's pretty awesome.
It's really cool.
He's got like towers. Yeah.
So with Juicy IPA, was this something that started on the pilot system?
Yeah, definitely.
This
Actually, a collab with Ian Cameron at Balebreaker.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, just it was so successful, and everyone at the brewery was so amped on it that we knew we kind of just wanted to keep making it. So I tweaked it a little bit and made it a little bit more driftwood coated, and kind of moved the recipe in a way that would slot into the lineup well and fill a gap that we don't really have. Something that was lighter in body, lighter in alcohol, but still really, really flavorful without being too bitter. You know, we didn't really have one of those going. And it's definitely our only recipe in the way that it was inspired by Ian and Balebreaker and my work with them. Because Ian's such a smart guy, and he's had so many cool experiences. He got to work with so many great people who have also worked with so many great people that I just try and absorb as much as I can from him whenever we hang out. It's our only beer that's mostly cryo. There's a little bit in some of our other beers, but because so many of our core lineup beers are from before that, we work it into a lot of our pilots now and this beer. But that's what's unique about it. There's some hyper boost, and a really simple grain bill, because that's kind of not the point of this one.
Nice. So just like, it's like very light. This one, just like Pilsner malt and maybe a bit of Carapils or something.
Yeah, exactly. And a little bit of acidulated. And the hops are kind of I think Crush and Mosaic are the big ones, and Nectaron and Simcoe.
Oh, very nice.
At some point in the process. Yeah.
You did that with this past summer. Ian and I did a collab at Yellow Dog as well. And it was very similar to that. So like,
good.
I think he's trying to he's a Crush evangelist for sure.
Yeah,
as
totally.
he should be.
And I definitely opened my eyes to that hop, and I was like, oh, this is sweet. Especially Crush Mosaic together is just like a match made in heaven.
Really? Yeah, really good. And Mosaic plays well with so many hops. Crush, were you playing with it when it was HBC 586 or whatever? I felt like
a bit. Yeah.
We got it into the brewery at the same time as we got 1019, which has a name now, and I don't remember it, but the Fuzzy Peaches hop. Yeah, thank you.
Dulcita,
yeah.
And that one was what all the brewers and everyone was really excited about. It was a very dominant, very, succinct hop. It smelled like what it said, and everyone was so excited. And then weirdly, it turned out like the Crush was the one that played well with everything and fit into any recipe you wanted.
I was going to say, like, Dulcita does not play well with others.
No.
No.
So that was kind of a 180. I didn't expect 586 or whatever Crush was to be the one that stuck around in our brewery long term, but that's the one that has a place here all the time now. Yeah. And when we did this beer, not this beer, it's changed a bit, but when we did the collab with Ian, the one we did in Yakima was a fresh hop, and it was amazing. That they had gone and pelletized fresh hops throughout the harvest. And destroyed one of the farms they were working at's pelletizer, trying to make actual fresh hops into T90s so that they could come back and use them in the brewery, and then load their brew house with actual whole cone hops too. It was wild. They're incredible.
It was pretty funny. Pretty funny chatting with Ian about like, so what's your approach to fresh hops? He's like, this is our approach. I don't think anybody else can do it. Like, you just don't have that much access.
There's just no rules. Like, they can just, they just do hops whenever they want to, as much as they want to at every stage. It's like, this doesn't translate to anyone. It's not very helpful advice.
No. And when we make fresh hop beers, it's such a process to get them to you. And to them, it's just driving down the road and loading up a truck. And like whether they're working with the farm they own or not, that's what they can do all the time. I'm jealous. I think they did 16 fresh hop beers last year. Something like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of them in cans too. It's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. That does remind me of a tangent that we didn't put in the questions, but like, how's it been, making Sartori Harvest? That's like probably the most, if not, like, that might be the most legendary beer in the BC or craft beer scene. Besides maybe a couple. What's kind of the, behind the scenes struggles that you have to deal with to make that beer, and because I'm sure it's a lot. There's a ferry
for fresh hops,
ferries and picking
hops.
windows and when to add it and all that stuff.
Totally.
But yeah,
the picking window is hilarious. Well, we could start there. We get a phone call every year from Christian Sartori, the farmer, and he'll just, I think he literally picks up, and one of our owners will answer, and it's just, the hops will be ready this day. Click. It's so mysterious. He's an amazing man. He's such a throwback. They're working with equipment that they brought over from Germany. It's amazing if you ever go get the chance to watch them process. So we just scramble at that point, rent our truck, figure out which brewers are going to go, and then we send them. And they've got, half a field of Centennial that's ours. We get it, we bring it back, and we brew the next morning. No matter what, we're changing the schedule so that it's going to happen live. And we kind of have all hands on deck. We don't have any equipment for this. We're not retrofitting the brewery for a beer that we make once a year.
Right.
So we load the kettle with the hops and tamp them down. We whirl back through the kettle into the cones as we cast out. And what we do at the end of that, we used to get people in there with buckets, bucketing them out, which I think a lot of breweries will do in smaller systems, but it was so time consuming. And you had to cool the kettle down, and kind of just actually unsafe now that I'm saying it out loud. It's just unsafe, is what I should just say. It's not something you really think about, but it is. So now we just drop the bottom off the kettle and fire hose them out all onto the floor. And we have our drain grates in, and we basically put like little bumper pads all around the brewery drain grates, and we squeegee them into a massive organic spin.
Oh, that's a pretty good idea.
And we do that twice. It's pretty gnarly.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's crazy.
It's a fun day. Everyone looks forward to it.
Lots of cleanup.
The truth about fresh hop beers is it's great to drink them, but a pain in the butt to make them for sure.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we also have those Centennial pelletized for, I almost said new growth, but it's not called that anymore. It's Driftwood Pale Ale.
Okay.
Yeah.
The same Sartorius Centennial you'll use in that beer?
Exactly. Yeah. We contract it so that we have those pellets year round. And there's some Columbus and some other hops in there, but it's mostly Sartori Centennial. And I think that's a really underrated beer too. It's a really staunch, thick little pale ale, like a really bitter pale ale, which we don't see a lot of anymore.
No.
Yeah. It's cool.
Sorry, we got a tangent there, but it's fun to talk fresh hops.
No, that's awesome.
To hear more about the beer is great. Yeah.
Yeah, I got a few extra bags of Centennial this year too, and we just my buddy who spent the whole day at Cultus Lake getting the hops came back that night and mashed in a pilot with me. So we made 2 this year.
That's fun.
Yeah. But yeah, before I got sidetracked there, we were talking about Juicy IPA. And yeah, I just opened my can here, and this was a new beer to me. I hadn't had it before. But not because I don't drink Driftwood. I just don't drink much of anyone's beers anymore. So
yeah,
but yeah, it's great, very juicy. I guess this was something that you helped develop, and with kind of inspired by this collab with Bale Breaker that you guys did. Anything else that you wanted to mention about it?
Just that I think it's not that I don't like hazy IPAs. I love hazy IPAs, but it doesn't seem like our niche, and I'm hoping to have more of a balance of new beers coming out into the market, beers that I know I can go get anytime and depend on. So I'd love to see more. If anyone wants to make more beers like this that are kind of crispy and clear and
clear
juicy,
but new world.
Yeah, exactly. Juicy in that they are, an expression of many different fruits in your hop aroma bouquet. I think that's what I like about it. I can pick out so many different things. It's not just tropical. It's not overwhelmingly bitter, although it is kind of a little bit bitter.
Yeah.
I think it's a good beer, and we try to preserve the aroma and make sure that, a 3-month-old can is going to give you something to enjoy, no matter how it's been stored. That's kind of the goal, A lot of our beers, because they're so sweet, and some of them do have some crystal, these are like heritage recipes, right? We have to work so hard to make sure they have some integrity in the can after 3 or 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, especially
really do want to stale.
Being the size that you guys are, it's going through LDB, I'm assuming, for distribution and stuff. So
we self-distribute, which is crazy.
You guys are insane.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. But still, that doesn't mean that when if I'm on Pender Island or something, I'm not gonna have a can that's sitting at the liquor store that's been there for 4 months. Like, you can't control it once it's out there, so you just have to, as you guys know, do your best on its way into the can.
Yeah. I would say this is like a pretty modern West Coast IPA, like that kind of like very light, a little bit less bitter, very like juicy, tropical kind of IPA, as opposed to like Fat Tug, which is like we said earlier, more American style, more kind of like classic C hop. So it's cool to have like two like clear IPAs, but kind of two expressions.
They're almost, I would say they're almost like different generational expressions. The way I'd like think of it, like
yeah, definitely.
And with this beer, I think it's really nice for like, this is a good example of like hot side flavor in a beer, which is something you're missing in so much of those like hazy IPAs, is like that, like you can get a lot of fruit impact on your hot side.
Yeah,
like
nobody wants to boil hops anymore.
Yeah. I don't know if this is all just Whirlpool, but like I imagine it's like a pretty heavy Whirlpool edition, if so.
All our beers are a heavy Whirlpool edition. I think there's some T10 in there. For sure there is, actually. I know there is. And this one was kind of just trying to, in a nuanced and finessed way, add hops at all parts of the process. So kind of, like I said, mostly cryo, but beginning, middle, and end of boil, and a big dry hop and hyper boost as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
And
are you using... Sorry, go ahead.
Are you adding the hyper boost into the fermenter, like with your dry hop?
We tried a few things.
Yeah.
And I know Ian's adding it into High Krausen. He thinks the mixing, and according to Balebreaker and according to our YCA trip, there's biotransformation opportunities with Hyperboost. Science beyond my understanding.
Yeah.
But no, we've tried it every way, through trials and even through the first batch or two, and we're really set on just like, this sounds boring and obvious, and it's probably what you might have tried if you've used Hyperboost, but just adding it in line on the way to the bright. Kind of where I like it the most. So that's what we're doing still.
Into the bright. Yeah.
Last minute. So when the beer's ready to go and we know we're going to move it and can it, we'll just add it last.
Sweet.
Nice. Yeah. Make sure that you get like the freshest expression ending up in the can as well. And like that is like some of the concern with adding it during fermentation, is like you can blow off some of the aromas. Maybe you need a slightly higher dosage in order to get the same intensity. The flavor impact is different, or like the flavor and aroma impact is definitely different on either application. But yeah,
I think so too. Yeah, but with it being so expensive and with us already having so much in the dry hop, I felt like, oh wow. Yeah. Nice to just like layer it on at the end.
Yeah. You're already having stuff at dry hop. You already have stuff at knockout. Yeah. I have hops throughout the process. Is it Crush Hyper Boost as well?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I kind of wondered too, like now I'm thinking out loud of if I might change it depending on what the hop varietal is, where I would add it to. Because I find I've tried the Mosaic cold side Hyper Boost, and now at Knockout, that's what we're doing with like our West Coast style IPA neighborhood. And I find like if I add it late, it's like too sulfury. And it stays in the beer. Whereas like if I can get it in there earlier, it's like cleaner and it comes through nicely. But I do find like adding it cold side, you get that like almost like oily, like this is you're drinking like fresh hop. Which you can't get that other way, which I get in your beer here, which is really nice. It gets like super layered and tropical.
Yeah, thanks. I wonder if that sulfur note is varietal dependent, hey? We did once use Simcoe Hyperboost in this because we couldn't get the crush for one batch, and most people couldn't. I didn't tell anyone, and most people never mentioned it. So, yeah.
There was no lineup of, I need to return this.
Yeah. I mean, around the brewery, I was shocked that no one was like, hey, there's something off. I mean, it's not the main feature of the beer. So maybe I shouldn't be surprised. But
yeah. When you use a lot of those things, you're using in like, okay, this is like a 5 to 10% of my hopping, and not by weight, but like by substitution. And,
but by impact.
Yeah. Totally.
So, and then obviously, that's the problem is when you are designing the recipe, it's hard not to have your own bias going into it.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Like
it's true. Driftwood's a cool place to work because you have a canon that you have to adhere to, right? It almost makes my job easier because we all have our own little bias and ego when we do our recipe design, but I know I have to play by the Driftwood rule book. We want our beers to fit in with what we've always done and what we always will do. So in some ways it's limiting, but I actually find helpful. It's kind of a guidance. So
What do you feel is, if you had to put that into words, like what is the Driftwood ethos or rule book? Like how is that approach? We kind of talked about it with like Fat Tug about preserving recipes and keep and modify ingredients so that they fit in the recipe. But like, if you're designing a new beer on the R&D system that might be scaled up, like how do you go about incorporating that ethos?
Yeah, I think trying to absorb as much as I could from Jay Meyer while I was working with him before he did retire on new recipes. Just gleaning what went into the beers and what got people excited and what was the difference between beers that would stick around and we keep making them and got the entire staff stoked and what didn't. I feel like there's a place in Driftwood's canon for historical styles, definitely. Whether they're niche or really celebrated historical styles, that definitely plays a role. And then when we're doing something new, we just want it to be a really intense expression of whatever that beer is meant to be. And I always think of it as kind of like when you're homebrewing and you're entering competitions when you're younger and you're just starting out, how you kind of look at the BJCP guidelines and then just max out every stat. You know what I mean? Like did anyone ever tell you that? That's how you get the judge's attention? Like, okay, whatever the ABV and IBU and color is, you go to the threshold of it and you just kind of push it there. It's like corny. But I think that there's a lot of that going on and just trying to make standout beers that push on the boundaries to the point where they may not fit within the style guidelines, and we're okay with that. That's no problem because they kind of fit within ours. Yeah.
Moving on, I guess I wanted to ask what excites you about the Canadian brewing industry and the BC beer industry. You've been in the industry now for quite, like almost as long or longer than Aslan and I, which is pretty fun for us to talk to. You've seen it kind of like really grow rapidly, and now kind of like it's growing, but not by growth of adding more breweries. Like from your perspective, like what excites you about what you're seeing these days?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We were talking about how you haven't had a chance to talk to a lot of island brewers because it's so insular, and sometimes I feel like it is, and I don't have a chance to step back and look outside at the industry as much as I want to. But when I think about the economic pressures on the industry right now, and just sales slowing down across the board, which I think is going to stymie innovation in a way. When it was freewheeling and breweries were growing and pushing the limits and trying new things, it was cool. There was something exciting happening all the time. And as much as I miss that, the pressure that is put on breweries financially from being in an age where craft beer is kind of in an in-between phase, I think. I think it's going to have cool results too. Change happens when times are good and everyone's high flying and moving forward. But that pressure is also going to yield some interesting results. And I don't just mean breweries closing, like new breweries all the time closing. I hate opening apps these days because I almost have some that I know it's expected to come, and then you hear about ones that you don't expect because I'm not as tapped into the Vancouver scene. So when I heard about Moody recently, I was really shocked. But if you hear about a Victoria brewery closing soon, I probably wouldn't be shocked to hear that.
Right.
But where I'm going with this is just that I feel like things are going to change, and I can't wait to see what happens. I know that we're in a transitional phase right now, and there's going to come a time where most breweries are seeing net growth, and where maybe we're going to see more breweries opening than we see closing again. And when that time comes, the craft beer landscape is going to look a lot different. And I'm not super worried about being at the forefront of that, but I can't wait to see what that looks like. I have a bunch of thoughts of what that might be, but it's, it's too soon to say. But I'm kind of just excited to see where this is all going. I wonder if we're going to see a lot more breweries that are kind of known for one beer. I'm sure more people know what Fat Tug is than know what Driftwood is.
Right. Yeah.
And that's really interesting. That's an interesting thing for a company to work with, because we don't do any marketing. We just want the beer to speak for itself, and we're not chasing growth at any expense, although we obviously need some of it to survive. So I wonder if we're going to come into that era again, because I've seen a little bit of evidence of that happening in the States and consolidation. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. And especially like you kind of mentioned, like being known as like Fat Tug, it's such a brand, right? And like you see a lot of breweries that have built their brand similar to that, and they spin off into like, it's like Voodoo Ranger, to speak of like New Belgium again. Now there's like totally 8 to 10 variants of Voodoo Ranger. So I guess my next
people know
is like,
Voodoo Ranger.
When do I get
exactly.
When do I get a 10% Fat Tug?
Easy Fat Tug
called the fattest tug.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fat Tug Ranger.
Yeah.
It's so funny. They've been really good about, again, talking about protecting that intellectual property. They've been really good about I think this is the craziest spin-off we've seen in a while. And the Tiny Tug.
The Tiny Tug, yeah,
exactly.
Which I was a cynic. Like I didn't get it when Gary told me about this. It's like, that seems like a really creative way to sell less beer, and I don't understand why we're doing that. But it's been really successful. That's why I'm not in the marketing department or the sales, obviously. And then one of you found a 15th anniversary can.
Yeah, so I got I'll show it on the screen here, but I got this like beautiful Fat Tug IPA, which it brought me back. I was like, oh, I've drank many a bomber with this with this label artwork. The first can with this label artwork, but it's 15-year anniversary of Fat Tug, so they brought back the old label. And then I was remarking to my wife of like, Yellow Dog, we couldn't do this because our label has literally never changed.
I love that.
It would be like exactly the same label. Yeah. So
bravo for that, by the way, because like no one's doing that. That's cool. It is the same label that I first had a Yellow Dog beer with. Yeah. It hasn't changed. I love that.
Yeah. For better, for worse, we're keeping it the same. Yeah.
Tried and true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seriously.
If it ain't broke.
Yeah, cool. What about you guys? What excites you about Canadian craft beer right now? You converse with so many more brewers than I do. I feel like you have a more bird's eye view of this. Give me some hope. What's cool?
Well, we're selfish, and we created this podcast so that we could talk to other brewers and ask them the same question, and then that internally peps us up to get through till the next podcast. No, I joke, but yeah, I think it's. Maybe Aslan. Do you know? I don't know. I feel like
I would say honestly, what excites me the most about the Canadian brewing industry right now is like everybody's maturing in a way. Like the brands are more defined than they ever have been. Maybe that's by force. We're having to like trim things down or like figure out what works for us, what doesn't. But like we're able to like hone in on core products. The quality across the board is like better than it's ever been. And
so
then
true.
Yet still there's like, at least with this podcast we felt, and maybe this is like self-curated because you're not going to be on the podcast if you don't want to talk about it, but like the open network we have, which is unlike any industry. Whenever we bring people in from, neighboring industries or stuff like that, or who have experience in neighboring industries, and you tell people that like, oh yeah, we just like openly talked about like Driftwood's core beer.
Yeah.
It's
like cool. It's like it's pretty sweet that like we can do this and like share this knowledge in the sense of like, I don't think in a lot of our recipe development it's like much like a rising tide lifts all boats.
I definitely agree.
Yeah.
I feel like that makes brewing a really good sphere to podcast in, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I think
you're so right.
There's
Like
so much to talk about.
There's a lot to talk about, and I don't get tired of listening to it. So thanks for doing this. What you said about having a mature industry that we're being left with is very true. That excites me as well. I feel like it's easy to take for granted the fact that beer has never been better in craft breweries. When like at the beginning, you'd go to a craft brewery and you'd come away with a win if you could find one or two that you loved.
Yeah.
Like never across the board were you tasting 6 or 7 or 8 beers there and thinking these are all great. And now at any size brewery that you might see, you're usually getting like a swath of really solidly made beers that clearly have experience and passion behind them. Like even small breweries that I can walk to or big breweries that I frequent around town, I'm usually going to get something consistently good. Whistleboy and Il Sauvage are walking distance for me just to shout those guys out. And like, I rarely have a bad beer there.
Yeah.
Everything's so tight, and yet times are still tough, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So whatever happens at the end of this, I think the industry will be better for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think to circle back, like what excites me these days is like we've never met, and it's super fun to like talk to you, that someone that's been in the industry like a long time, and like someone like myself that if you've been in it this long, like you're taking it really seriously. Like this like job of making beer, and it's like a fun job, but it's also like if you really invest a lot of time and effort into it, it's like so fulfilling and rewarding. And then on the flip side, like sometimes we'll have someone on the podcast that's like just been in the industry for like 2 years or something fresh, or like we had Miguel from Changing Colors on, and it's like he's coming into it with like these fresh ideas that like we're not thinking of, or he's like pushing the boundaries. And so to me, like, oh, that's cool. Like, 10 years ago, like everyone was pushing the boundaries, but also there was no boundaries. And now it's like, now I feel like, there are boundaries, and, like someone like myself was like running production breweries, or like yourself, it's like, we talk about different boundaries than he has at his like 10 hex system, right? Like he can literally,
30 grams per
push
liter.
it. He can do 30 grams per liter. And
30 grams per liter.
Yeah. So I think that's cool. And like, I like that dichotomy of having like very experienced people or like, and newer people in the industry, and kind of like stealing secrets from both and getting inspired from both is cool.
Yeah. And like, no matter what angle you're approaching it from, if you're passionate about it, you're going to have some kind of edge. It's true. Yeah. But it is fun. I think we're all in this because we like thinking a lot about what we do. And it's a nice job at the end of the day.
Yeah.
For those new to craft beer, just starting in the industry, what advice would you share for them? Like, how would they get in?
I don't know. Like, that's a great question. I went to school to get better at this, right? I did that because I really wanted to be great at it, and and have a long career here, if that's what I wanted to do. So I thought that having that good foundation would be essential. But I still think that if you're really dedicated, and you, like I talked about having a fire under my ass when I walked into brew school, and I was definitely one of the least knowledgeable people there. If that's the way you approach it, and you're humble, and you know where you're at, and you don't make any illusions about how much you have to learn, you should always feel like you have a lot to learn. You can go right into work at a brewery and try and learn and scrap your way up. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's just different strokes, right? I've seen lots of really good brewers who are pretty self-taught and just have worked in the industry for a long time. But at the end of the day, the advice I would give anyone is just to like have embarrassingly large goals. I don't think that there's anything wrong with thinking huge, and like having goals so lofty that accomplishing them may not even be possible or by any metric achieved at any point. It's just that like the small steps you take towards it every day are the wins. I want Driftwood to be the best brewery in Canada. I don't even know what that really means. I just know that every day when we go in and we work really hard to take small strides, we're gonna do something great along the way. I feel like working with Matt Phillips was a lot like that. He's like the only person I ever worked with who I would say is visionary in any way. And he thinks so big that it's like kind of, intense at times. I didn't know what to do with that when I first started there. And then I learned to just love it and realize that breakneck pace and having to learn new things fast, or you just get steamrolled. I started to love that, even though I didn't think it was something that I could ever do. That pace and that drive and trying to do cool things and do them really well and always learning. I would just say, like, don't be shy about setting your goals even higher than you could imagine. I just make them really stupid and then work really hard at it.
I love that.
That's what I would say.
Dare to dream.
Dare to dream.
Yeah, dare to dream. Like, it doesn't really matter. No one is clocking you or making sure you get there. But I definitely feel like the progress, it's like climbing a mountain, right? Like, it doesn't really matter if you're the most experienced mountain climber in the world or what mountain it is. It's just the same for everyone. It's just one foot in front of the other every day. So just do that work, whether it's with quality or recipe design or like any sort of attention to detail. Yeah, there's it pays off over the long run for sure.
Nice. Well, we better wrap it up before these 7% beers start to really hit us.
Yeah, or all our kids start screaming.
Yeah.
I think I just heard mine, actually. Yeah, good times.
Speaking of which, when you're not working at the brewery, how do you like to spend your time outside of it?
Good question. Yeah, even though I love my job, I try and leave work at work a lot. So I'm not homebrewing anymore. I'm sure you guys are the same.
Yeah.
And I do love tasting beer outside of work, but try and it's hard to turn the analytical brain off, right? But beer and my wife and I love to travel the world, and I definitely am trying beer when I'm doing that, no matter where I am. We were in Spain last year, and I didn't think it would be a very beery trip. And then I just became obsessed with Spanish lagers and went on a deep dive because that's an untapped genre that I fell in love with. Regional Spanish lagers. Who knew, right?
Sweet.
Travel. I like to bike camp, and I do a lot of jogging, hiking. Recently, a new hobby I picked up is learning how to raise a baby. It's going okay. One day at a time. Yeah. Lots of hobbies. We're so lucky where we live, right? In Victoria, there's a beach in every direction. So a lot of time spent on the water one way or another. We're like 10-minute walk from the gorge to swim in the summer, and we try and be outdoors a lot. So that's kind of what I got going on.
Nice.
Sounds great.
That's great. Sweet. Awesome. Well, thanks for doing this podcast with us. It's great chatting about Fat Tug and Driftwood and, like reminiscing about early times when we were getting in the industry, but also like hearing about how things have changed or how they haven't changed and how you're stewarding the beers over time. So yeah, thanks so much for doing this with us.
Thanks for being stoked on Fat Tug. I love how much everyone loves it. It's one of the best parts of the job.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to talk about it, and it was really cool to meet you guys.
Yeah, we'll have to stop in next time we're in town. We're gonna go on tour, Aslan.
I think
there we go. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. By the way, if we did go on tour, there'd be many early mornings where there'll be Fat Tug on tap, and a sidecar grapefruit juice is the perfect thing to make it a brunch drink.
Sounds so good. I'm in. So just like when you come to Victoria, make sure I can be there.
Sounds good. Great. Thanks everyone for listening to this episode of the podcast. If you want to hear more about other podcasts, then subscribe to our Instagram where we post new podcast episodes. And if you want to support, we also say like, Andy, where can people find your beer?
Everywhere. BC liquor stores have some core stuff, but go to your local craft-focused retailer for the freshest, and try some of the things of Driftwood that you haven't had before is my recommendation if you can find them. But we're pretty much everywhere. Yeah, that was the nice thing about this podcast. It was very easy to get the beer. Just went to the local Angry Otter. We've got some very tasty, pretty fresh beer, so that's great. Yeah. If you want to support Aslan and I, you could buy our beer, Main Street Brewing Beer, Yellow Dog Brewing Beer, and Neighborhood Brewing Beer, wherever you could find our beer. And yeah, tell your friends about the podcast. And yeah, until next time, I guess cheers.
Yeah. Cheers. Till next time.